Right, good morning again. So today we're looking at 3rd John, not to be mistaken with John chapter 3. So open it up in your Bibles, but we'll be walking along and I'll have the passages up as we're going through them as well. So, a couple of notes that I had. The first time I read this, I felt like it was really, really wholesome. That was just the word that came to mind to me. And it's a letter of encouragement and just really heartwarming when someone hears that someone else that you haven't seen for a while but you've invested in is doing really, really well in their faith and their service. And it's a letter of encouragement that just says, hey, you're doing amazing and I'm really proud of you. And it's just like, oh, that's so nice. But the other thing about this letter is that it's missing a lot of context, and we'll go through that. There's a lot of questions as to who people are and where things are, and there's a lot of information that is missing, and yet for some reason it still feels so relatable today. It's like you don't actually need to fill those gaps to know the meaning behind it. So I really felt like this letter could have been an email today, with the exception of, I hope to see you soon probably means more like a few months away, whereas today, I hope to see you soon is in a week or so. But it's so relevant. So we're going to walk through it, and there are 4 sections here, so I'll break them down one at a time. So the first one would be greeting and encouragement, and then these are the titles I've given it: hospitality and working together, unhospitable leaders and how to respond to them, and then greetings, introductions, and hope to see you soon. So we'll go through them one at a time. Alright, we'll dig into it. So the first one, greetings and encouragement, verses 1 to 4, say, the elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and all that may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. It gave me great joy when some believers came and testified about your faithfulness to the truth, telling how you continue to walk in it. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. Have you seen that heartwarming bit? That little bit of encouragement? So breaking this down, the first part, the elder, that's actually who the letter is from. It took me a little bit to figure that out. But we don't definitively know that this elder is John. It is most commonly believed that it is the Apostle John, and that's because it matches his style of writing and other things that are proven to be him. And there's also, he is believed to be the longest living apostle, and so the time frames are likely to match up more with him than some of the others. But there's no definitive, yes, this is John. Most people do believe it is, and so I will be talking about it as if it is John. Gaius, who the letter is written to, is also a mystery. There's several Gaiuses mentioned in the New Testament, and it could be all the same person, but it could be 4 or 5 different Gaiuses. So I've put a few verses down there, I won't look them up, but Acts 19 and 20 talk about a Gaius who travelled with Paul and was actually arrested at one point. 1 Corinthians 1, Paul mentions that he baptised Gaius and a guy named Crispus. And in Romans 16, they're all Paul, interestingly enough. Paul and the whole church enjoyed the hospitality of Gaius. And as we look into this, you will see a lot of this letter is about how good Gaius is at hospitality. So there is a likelihood that it could be the same person. But I'm not saying it is. I'm just drawing connections. which is a lot of what this sermon is going to be. Observations and guesses. But I own that. If it's a guess, I'll tell you it's a guess. So, that's who's who for now. There's a couple more people that come in down the track. So verse 2 says, Dear friends, dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. I've underlined that part because I originally read that as like, oh, your soul is getting along well. It kind of sounds like you're getting old and tired. But I looked at some other translations and that's not what it means at all. So NLT translation says, I hope all is well with you and that you are as healthy in body as you are strong in spirit. New King James Version says, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. So that comes to a very different meaning. It's another word of encouragement, also a prayer over Gaius to say, you are doing really well in your faith and spiritually, and I really hope and I pray that physically your body can keep up with that. Which is really cool. It's a cool prayer to pray over people. Okay. Moving on, verses 3 and 4. I'm reading everything a lot because the Bible is really what this is about, not my words. Verse 3, it gave me great joy when some believers came and testified about your faithfulness to the truth, telling how you continue to walk in it. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. And when I was reading over this for the final time this morning, there was one person that came to my mind. As most of you will know, I do run the youth group here. And I remember at Easter camp this year, we were getting ready and we were starting to set up for everyone to sign in. And there was one of the girls, one of the younger leaders, was looking at me and I was like, oh, that's all right, I'm busy, I'm doing what I need to do. And then she came over to me and she said, you're Hannah, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was just like, you used to be my leader. And I was like, oh no, I didn't recognize her. And she was like, it's okay, you don't recognize me. I used to have really, really long hair and she had really short hair now. And she looked very different. It had been a few years. She looked like a different person in the best way possible. And she was leading at a different youth group now. She had this energy and this joy about her. And she would walk around with the younger girls from her cabin, and she would be one of the ones who would stoop down when someone was having a bad moment and just couldn't handle it. And she was the one who would be like, oh, do you want to go for a walk with me? Do you want to come to the pool? And that just warms my heart. And so there's this moment of relatability with John when he's so excited and he hears that Gaius is doing really, really well. But the first thing that he does is he tells him, and he says, you're bringing me so much joy with what you're doing. And I think that's something that's often missed in our culture today, is not having that encouraging word. So there's a little bit of a prompt for you guys, and myself as well. But the interesting thing is another mystery. We don't know who these testifiers are. I've put a few guesses there, but we don't know who they are or exactly why they were talking with John. They could have been sent specifically with a message from Gaius. They could have been mutual friends catching up. Or they could have been complete strangers who happened to be talking and ran into each other and be like, oh, I know that guy. He welcomed us into his home. He gave us a cup of tea and some food. It was great. We don't know. But there's a little bit of a hint that comes on, and I'll come back to it, as to what could have been the scenario that happened. So, part one summary. we're already through part 1, encourage others when we see or hear that they're doing well, especially in their faith and their service. But also take a moment to just sit in that joy and that excitement when you see them doing well. And you're just like, yeah, I'm allowed to be excited for this person that I haven't seen in 3 years because she's still got faith and she is encouraging other people in their faith and leading them well. I can be excited for the part that I played for her years ago and she remembered me with joy. So there's your part 1 summary. Cool? Part 2, we're moving on. Hospitality and working together. This is verses 5 to 8. Okay. And I'll read it out again. Dear friend, sorry, I keep saying friends. Dear friend, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers and sisters, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church about your love. Please send them on a way in a manner that honours God. It was for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. We ought therefore to show hospitality to such people, so that we may work together for the truth. So, verse 5. Dear friend, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers and sisters, even though they are strangers to you. So that's a hint that maybe these people that told John what was happening with Gaius were complete strangers that he welcomed into his house. This is not a rhetorical question. I want to hear your voices. What do we think it means to do something faithfully?
Even when it's hard, still.
Yep.
Being consistent.
Yep. Yep.
Exercising faith.
Yep. Nice. Cool. Commitment. Good. Cool. Really, really good. So one thing that passage that came to mind here is the parable of the bags of gold. And there's the master who goes away for supposedly quite a long time and gives 3 of his servants each some gold to take care of. And the first one gets 1 bag, the second one gets 2 bags, and the third one gets 3 bags. The first one buries it, the second one invests it, and the third one invests it again. And the 2 that invested it made some profit and gave it back to the master. But this is the reply for the last one who had 3 bags of gold and multiplied it. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many. Come and share your master's happiness." When God gives you something, you don't bury it. And for Gaius, his gift that he was given was hospitality, and he opened his home to it. And I really do think that what we're reading between the lines here is that Gaius opened his home to other Christians, was quite possibly on a regular basis, and he treated them, even though they were strangers, with kindness, respect and generosity, and this would not have been without risks. Sometimes doing something faithfully means knowing that there's a risk or that it's going to be hard, but doing it anyway. How many of you guys have felt like you've opened up your hearts or your homes or something, and then someone's just kind of been like, yeah, whoops, I broke something, I won't bother telling them. That would have happened, most likely. But he had numerous people speaking of him in very, very good ways. So the fruits of his labour, verse 6, they have told the church about your love. Please send them on their way in a manner that honours God. It is for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. These people spoke well of Gaius, and they went out to share the name of God. Okay, 2 observations here. You can read it. There is a clear image of different people here in the church having different skill sets and different roles and working together. These strangers that Gaius took in, they went on to share the name of God, to preach, to evangelise. And Gaius was the one that welcomed them into his home so that they were able to do that. He's supporting them in their ministry. And everyone has a part to play in God's story, which is really, really cool. And just another little observation, absolutely coming from my brain, not from the Bible, but reading between the lines, it's quite likely that Gaius would have been excited to hear that these other guys were doing well, that they were sharing the name of God, and that they were prospering in their faith. Cool. Summary. Verse 8. We ought therefore to show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth. I haven't added any more points to that because I think verse summary summarises that paragraph incredibly well. We ought therefore to show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth. We work together to share God's message. Gaius played his part, they played their part, and it's this beautiful melody. Okay, that's part 2. Now I have a break, because I like to throw in a break, I like to get you guys to talk. I want you to find a neighbour, and preferably someone you didn't come with, and ask them, do they prefer, this question was courtesy of Eric, do you prefer to use the self-checkout or to go to a cashier at the supermarket? Go.
Well, Eric, what do you prefer? This was your question.
Probably the self-checkout.
Self-checkout?
Yeah, that's right. Self-checkout.
Yeah. If you're in a hurry. Yeah, if I'm in a hurry and I haven't got much, I'll self-checkout. But if I've got a lot, and it's, I enjoy smiling and saying hello.
You want to write it chicken?
You obviously have more of a hurry.
It's getting that way now too, but so is my cashier, and Chief was telling me that too.
Probably elderly people would like to go to the cashier. And because sometimes
The cashier must say,
Alright.
Get where I want to be.
I hope you learned something about your neighbour. Do we do a show of hands? How many cashier people here? Oh yes, a good number.
What about the people that do both?
Yeah. Depends if it's a quick shop or a big shop. I always feel bad if I'm going through the self-checkouts with like a massive trolley and holding up the line and trying to stack everything onto the little weight thing.
That's you.
I feel bad if I've got too much stuff, but I'll usually go to the self-checkout. Yeah.
You only need 25 items in your container.
Yeah. No, only if I've got a smaller group though. Don't want to be that person that's having it all fall off the side. Anyway, cool. So part 3, and the last 2 parts are a little bit smaller. So this is where the letter takes quite a sharp turn in tone, and he's talking about someone who is basically doing the opposite of what Gaius has been doing. So, a couple of notes before we start. Don't confuse Diotrephes with Demetrius. Okay? They're both coming up soon. First time I read it, I got very confused because I was getting mixed signals from the letter. And also the way that John is speaking in this letter implies that Gaius most likely either knows or at least knows of Diotrephes. Verse 10 mentions, so when I come, I'm going to do this, which we'll get into soon, which indicates that they're probably in a similar area. John's saying, when I come over, I'm going to deal with him. So we'll get into that soon, but it's good to have that in our minds. At the same time, again, we don't know much about Diotrephes. So, verses 9 and 10. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Quite a sharp turn. Can anyone name, I will go back to the previous slide so you can look at the passage, can anyone name some of the faults of Diotrephes from this passage? I'll go back. Not rhetorical. Yep, absolutely.
He tells lies.
Tells lies, yep.
He's controlling.
Yeah,
Full of his own importance.
yep. Bit of a bully. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, here's the ones that I came up with. So pride and power, he loves to be first. In Matthew 20 verse 16 says the last will be first and the first will be last, so I'm sure he got a bit of a shock at the other end. Gossip, spreading nonsense, he was being unwelcoming and stubborn, and abusing his power and threatening to exile those who opposed him. So I think you guys covered pretty much all of that. So good job. So Diotrephes' reasons, again, we don't know why he is rejecting John, but here's a few guesses. Okay, so it looks like he loves to be first, so he quite possibly has a problem with authority. John, being the Apostle John, if it is him, would have definitely been an authority figure. I think that's safe to say, and especially if it does end up being in that time zone that it's suspected towards the end of the lifespan of most of the apostles, it would have been, he would have been extra authority because he would have been one of the last ones left. And maybe he's just afraid of losing his followers to someone else. Maybe he disagrees with something John has said. That's fairly likely. Or maybe he's scared that John disagrees with something that Diotrephes has said. And it could be pride that's getting in the way of him being open to corrections. That's a big problem. That's a big problem for today. All of these things are problems for today that we must be warned against. But the thing is, whatever his reasons for doing it, it's pretty clear that it's getting in the way of his ministry and clashing with clear teachings of the Bible. And the really interesting thing is, I don't know the background, but it's quite likely that this didn't happen overnight. This bitterness and this inhospitable behaviour probably didn't happen overnight. I imagine it would be one thing happened and someone said something bad about him, or you did this wrong, and then he gets a little bit harder. and a little bit more bitter, till he gets to the point where he just can't deal with these people. Or maybe he's just like, nah, my way is the only way, if not, get out. Don't know. But that's something that we have to be warned against, because each and every one of us, I'm sure at some point, has struggled with one of these things. Have someone opposed to something that you've said. Have someone who steals all your friends and all of a sudden you're not popular at high school anymore. Maybe you're scared of being told off. I've done several of these things, I can tell you that much, especially high school. So that's a warning. And John's response is very clever, but very careful not to stoop to the same levels. So Diotrephes clearly doesn't like him, and he starts spreading whatever rumours he's spreading, but John does not do that. He doesn't make those low blows. He does, however, very clearly plan to expose him. I mean, he's named him in this letter. He's not saying that guy that is around the corner from you is doing these things. He's named him in the letter. He makes it very clear this person is not doing the right thing. And so his plan is to inform the public and the church of what Diotrephes is doing wrong. And then they can decide for themselves. Once they are properly informed and aware of what's going on, they can decide if they want to be a part of that. So really it is the truth that quite likely, don't have the rest of the context, but quite likely would have brought about his own destruction. Part 3 summary. Verse 11, again, this is a very clear, so the passage summarises it for me. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. This is a warning to Gaius. Say, don't follow these tracks. Keep doing what you're doing. And let the truth deal with this guy. So a few key points. Don't make the same mistakes as Diotrephes. Don't let pride or power come before hospitality. I feel like I don't need to tell most of you guys this stuff. There's a little bit of encouragement for you. Don't reject help or correction. That's a hard one. Don't bully others into getting what you want, or just because they're doing something that you don't want them to do. And don't spread slander or gossip of others, but do speak up against those that do these things. Okay? Part 4, we're nearly there. Part 4 is a lot shorter. Okay, greetings, introductions, and hope to see you soon. Verse 12, I've broken this one down, a couple of verses at a time. Demetrius, different person, not Diotrephes, Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. So Demetrius sounds like a good guy. He sounds great. From everything that John's saying, he's given him a really good character reference. But why is it relevant? I don't know. Here's another great big I don't have the answer. Sorry guys. But quite likely, my guess is that Demetrius is someone that John wants Gaius to meet. He could have been the deliverer of this letter, or maybe he's saying, hey, I know you're struggling with Diotrephes, and I think Demetrius could really help you to get through these things. Or maybe he's just saying, hey, this is my friend Demetrius, you're really good at hospitality, could you give him a place somewhere to stay for a few days? Don't know. But we know that he's a good guy. So we're going back and forth We're starting with Gaius, who's doing great things, and then we've gone to Diotrephes, who is not doing great things, and now Demetrius is a little nugget at the end. It would have been great to know the rest. Verses 13 to 15, this is the last couple of verses. I have much to write to you, but I do not want to do so with pen and paper, with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and that we will talk face to face. Peace to you. The friends here send their greetings. Greet the friends there by name. I would really, really love to know what this is, what the much more I have to write to you about was. And it's interesting, sometimes you want to ask why he didn't write it down, and it's possibly that pen and paper, ink and paper were expensive, definitely. Or maybe it was that it wasn't safe to write down, which would make sense because he didn't sign his name at the end. Someone interfered and was like, oh, John's writing these naughty things, let's go deal with him. But whatever his reasons are, I do kind of like John's approach. Wherever possible, talk to people in person. It's really, really hard to offer someone hospitality when you're over the phone, or you're not face to face. You can't offer someone a cup of tea through Zoom. Or if you do, they might not take too nicely to it, or your computer might not take too nicely to it. So do it in person when you can. I don't think I have to break it down much. There's so much more connection. You guys have ever sent a text or an email and someone's misread it? Or they misunderstood the tone of the message? So much easier to gauge people in person. And that's what he wants to do. And the interesting thing is, I don't know what I hope to see you soon, what kind of time frame that is. It could be a year away. It could be longer. But that's how it goes. So, rounding up, the 4 parts, 4 key points. Encourage others when we see or hear that they're doing well, especially in their faith and in their service. Number 2, be hospitable and generous. Verse 8, we ought therefore to show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth. You're not just being hospitable and generous for the sake of helping someone else or being kind. You're doing it for the sake of working together for God's ministry. Point number 3, don't be like Diotrephes. Don't stoop to the level of those people when they do act like him, but let the truth speak for itself. And where possible, face-to-face hospitality is best. With that in mind, I believe we have morning tea.
You're right, yes.
Yes. So I'm going to round up in prayer, and I really, really encourage you guys to stick around for a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and have some good chats with people. Feel free to debate as to whether cashiers or self-checkout is the best. Up to you.
Hannah, do you want an example of what you've been talking about today? I made the mistake of complimenting somebody on their shortbread last Sunday at morning tea.
Okay.
The next day I had somebody greet me in my home with the leftovers because they had too much.
Oh, that sounds like a good mistake to make.
Yeah, and it's great hospitality, great Christian.
Oh, very good. Cool. There you go. If you're encouraging people, you might reap the rewards of it.
Not expecting a reward.
That's the
But
best
that's
way
what
to
the
do
message
it.
is
But it's
about.
great when you get those rewards.
That's what that message is about. Is
Exactly.
to do it without anticipation of
Yeah,
reciprocal.
100%. Thank you. That's a great little addition to the story. All right, I'll round up in prayer, and then we'll have our morning tea. Yeah, Lord, thank you for your word. for your wisdom and for your guidance. Lord, I pray that this can be an encouragement for each of us, that we can remember to be generous, to open our hearts, open our homes, open our ears, but also help us to be wary of those things that can creep up on us, those negative thoughts, that bitterness, that hard-heartedness, that we can steer clear of those things, Lord. Let it be an encouragement for us in the weeks to come, that we should also be an encouragement to others. Help us to take joy in those moments when we see others doing well. And remind us to let them know when we do. Lord, we pray for your presence with each of us and for those who couldn't make it today, to go with us in the week to come, bring us joy and hope and perseverance for whatever we need to face. Amen.